everyone. My name is Somora. I'm one of the youth leaders here, and today was a eye-opening day for me. It really shifted my perspective in how I look at life back home, and how I look at history, Black history. We first started off with a devotional, and we read about Amos, and we read that he was a prophet speaking to people who had plenty of religion but were ignoring real injustice happening right in front of them. And looking at Amos, that is who Dr. King is. He was someone who was a spiritual leader, but he didn't just sit back and look at the world around him and didn't do anything about it. He was someone who wanted to take a step and see change in the world. So today was a lot. We went and we looked at where he lived, where he was born, and we learned a lot about his foundation growing up. His father was a minister, and grandfathers were also Black educators and spiritual leaders, so he had a very strong foundation. But also, to add to that, learning about him being a spiritual leader and his family coming from a family who were also spiritual leaders, he has these principles. And his wife, she actually has this quote that says, "People who think nonviolence is easy don't realize that it's a spiritual discipline that requires a great deal of strength, growth, and purging of the self so that one can overcome almost any obstacle for the good of all without being concerned about one's own welfare." And that made me think about like Jesus and him dying on the cross, for our sins. And like any of us, you could imagine wanting to how much strength it took to just take that on and be that sacrifice. You know what I mean? But when she says people who think about non-violence is easy, that is a spiritual discipline, it just made me think about the power of Christ that lives within us, and how that power how much more are we powerful when we have the power and the strength of Christ living in us. So yeah, that was interesting. It was also eye-opening to learn about like the different civil rights leaders. We learned about W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, and how they had different views on things, but they also had the same agenda and what they wanted and the change that they wanted to see. We met a few people along the way that spoke to us about the history, and there were a few things that was said that stood out to me. One of the gentlemen that we met today, he had said, he was explaining to us that Dr. King saw two sides of the world being told you can't be anything because you're Black, and the other world outside of Auburn where there's possibilities. And you can imagine what that was like for him, being a young boy and being told that you'll never be able to be anything because of the color of your skin. But outside of that, he was able to see, Black people actually living a life and being successful, and him wanting that reality for everybody. And I think overall, just being able to see our history up close, it just really made me appreciate this opportunity, because everything that I learned about today, like I never would have, and I never learned about coming from where I'm from in San Diego. Like there were things that I learned about MLK that I never knew. I kind of grew up knowing that he was a civil rights leader, and that he cared and wanted there to be an end to segregation and equality, but the details of like the foundation he had and the family that he came from, and that's where his passion and his resilience came from, that foundation. And so it's different being here and seeing it up close versus just learning about it. It hits different. And something we talked about tonight was that history needs to be constantly reminded, because we forget. And so just having this opportunity to come and learn about our history up close and be in it just really sparks and inspires me to want to bring this history and share more of what I know with people back home that may not know the things that took place here. And I'm grateful that people like Coretta Scott was thinking about future generations, and the fact that we're able to look at the streets being similar to what it was back then, and even the home. She cared about preserving that because she was thinking about future generations like us. So I'm just grateful, and I'm grateful for this experience. And I think everyone should have an opportunity. If you haven't, I think everyone should have an opportunity to come and see your history up close, because I think it's something that everyone needs to take in for themselves.